Hey everyone, Colby coming to you from Muffler Tech, StolenCats.com, and PriusCats.com. I'm going to do a video today about insurance. Now, I've done one of these in the past, and I'll go ahead and run a link down below in the description for that. The one that I had done in the past talks about how to open an insurance claim and what to do if your catalytic converter is stolen. Today, I'm going to talk about types of insurance coverage, whether or not you should have different types of coverage depending on what type of car you drive, very specifically to the kind of rampant theft that is taking place with stolen catalytic converters. Let's start with the type of cars you should be concerned about and whether or not insurance coverage is important. Now, car on screen right now, absolutely number one victim, speaking to catalytic converter theft, has been for at least 10 years now, and that's going to be a Generation 2 Prius. These absolutely 100% do not own one of these without having a comprehensive or full coverage insurance policy. I'm going to go over what that means specifically, but you want at least comprehensive in addition to the required liability if you drive a Generation 2 Prius. Now, you can see other ones here that are all waiting to be repaired. Let's not discount the Generation 3 Prius, which is right up there, and speaking to cars that are victimized, and here's one here. Really, speaking to Prius, I would not have any year Prius, period, that you don't have comprehensive coverage on these types of cars. Now, moving along, the next car that you absolutely want to have comprehensive coverage on, speaking to catalytic converter, and that's going to be this generation Accord, which is the 7th generation, I believe, and the 6th generation and the 5th generation. So that's going to run from like mid-90s all the way up to 2007. These cars are right in there, real close to Prius as far as being victimized for catalytic converter theft. And you can see I've got another one there. I've got another one over here, a red one next to another Generation 2 Prius. And then you can see just past that CRV, you've got a gold one here. These are all cars, by the way, that are here on insurance claims waiting for approval so we can go ahead and get them fixed and back on the road. Since we're talking about Hondas, any Honda that, let's just play it safe and say, that's older than 2010, we have the CRV on screen now. This one is here for a stolen catalytic converter. Absolutely want to have comprehensive coverage on anything Honda SUV. Along the same lines, here is an earlier Honda Odyssey. These are a concern all the way up through 2010 or so. Let's talk about small SUVs. Now, I've done a video specifically on the Kias with about a year ago or so, and with my prediction of these being kind of the next hot topic as far as stolen cats. This one is here for a stolen underside cat, but it is not specific to just Kias. It's going to be a lot of your mid-size SUVs. So like this Lexus RX that's here, it's here for stolen cat. That's going to be the one that's underneath the vehicle. And we have other SUVs here as well, that CRV that we were just talking about. And let's move over here and I'll show you. We got a 4Runner sitting over there, and that is here for stolen cats. Now, Toyota trucks, definitely something to be concerned about, although this particular one falls in the small SUV category. Toyota pickups, Toyota Sequoias, Toyota Tundras, Toyota Tacomas, things like that. Of course, this 4Runner. These are all vehicles 100% you're going to want to have insurance on to cover yourself, comprehensive insurance to cover yourself on those stolen cats. And now we have a Mitsubishi here, again, falling into that mid-size SUV category. It's not so much brand specific for some reason. We're getting a ton of these mid-size SUVs with the underside cat being stolen. Another one to be concerned about, any heavy-duty gasoline-powered Ford truck or van. I say heavy-duty, that's going to get us into that F-250, most commonly powered by the 5.4 liter V8 or the 6.8 liter V10. We get a ton of these, at least 5 or 6 a week. Now this also includes motorhomes, vans, delivery vans, things like that. And since we're talking about delivery vans, let's bring up the Nissan NV, the 200 specifically. We get a ton of those, although I don't actually have any here right now. Very expensive cat to replace. And as we kind of walk through the parking lot here, I want to talk about diesels. So this is a Ram diesel truck. Catalytic converter was stolen along with the diesel particulate filter, and it's a mess. When they take them off of these, it gets very expensive because you're not just replacing a catalytic converter, you're replacing the diesel particulate filter and the lines and all of the sensors and everything that's associated with it. Another vehicle, absolutely, you want to have that comprehensive insurance coverage. And quickly, since we're right next to it, a lot of Acura products that are built on the Honda Accord platforms fall into the same category. This is an older TL. It is here for stolen catalytic converter. Again, these are all here waiting on insurance approval. These are all customers that were smart enough or had the foresight enough to have insurance on the cars to make sure they're not having to pay out of pocket to replace these converters. I want to show you guys, just as an example of how brazen these thieves have gotten. This is a failed unit, obviously not stolen, I wouldn't have it here. But this came off of a newer F-250 diesel, and you can see how massive this part is, and it probably weighs 80 to 100 pounds. And we're talking about 5.5 feet long. And this is what they're doing when they take them. So they're cutting them down here, and they're taking this entire thing. You've got the cat and the diesel particulate filter and all those lines, like this one here, that they're cutting and taking. So lots of sensors and lots of expensive stuff. On the diesels, when we have to replace components like this, it very quickly gets above 5, 6, 7. We've had them over $10,000. Just about done here. I was showing you guys, I mean, at some point we're all going to get tired of looking at Generation 7 Accords, but I'm trying to get you guys a real idea of the cars that we really need to watch and be concerned about, and make sure that we have insurance coverage to cover you. Because when these cats get stolen, like the Accords can be, depending on what cats we need to put in them, you get above 25, sometimes 35, some of them are up to $5,000 by the time we end up replacing the converters. Let me show you guys, and obviously I apologize for all the noise, it's a working shop. Let me show you guys this Mitsubishi on the lift so you have an idea on these smaller SUVs, kind of what they're doing when they steal the converters, so you get an idea. So you can see the converter is missing there. We've got the exhaust pipe here that runs back through the muffler. So this goes back, this is a resonator, even though it looks kind of like a catalytic converter. Pre-muffler, a resonator, and then this runs back and goes into the muffler here. But moving forward, up front, what you can see what they did is, in this case, they used a pipe cutter, and they cut the back side of the cat, cut the wire to the O2 sensor that goes in the side of the cat, and they unbolted it here. And I call this the underside cat on these smaller SUVs because there's supposed to be a cat here, but if you look up here, there's also a converter right there. Now that converter is part of the exhaust manifold. And to take that out of there, you'd have to actually physically take the exhaust manifold off the vehicle. You can see all the mechanicals that are involved and effort that it would take to get that out of there. But this one, of course, is pretty easy. Got a couple bolts here on these studs, and they make a wire cut here and pipe cutter there. Probably a theft that takes less than a minute, and we're getting into thousands of dollars in repair on something like this. All right, so in a second I'm going to get into different types of insurance coverage. You heard me mention when we were walking the lot there and going over the different cars that we have here for insurance claim, catalytic converter stuff. You heard me say comprehensive a lot, and so comprehensive is a very specific type of coverage, and I'll get into that here in just a second. What I want to address, and I get this all the time, we have customers come in all the time that don't have insurance. Of course, we do both. We fix vehicles for stolen converters regardless of who's paying for it. If somebody wants the car fixed, we're going to fix it for you. If you have insurance, we deal with insurance companies every single day, every single carrier. We know how to process and deal with an insurance claim. So keep that in mind. If you're out of the area and you can't come to us here at Muffler Tech, then I recommend you do some research. Find a shop that's got good reviews. I strongly advise going to an actual exhaust shop. Insurance companies will often recommend you to go to a body shop because they have a prearranged contract with them, and that's great if you've crashed your car. But if your car goes to a body shop for a stolen converter, it's very likely going to get sublet to a different shop somewhere else that you now don't have the control over. So my advice is to find a good exhaust repair shop that does catalytic converters and knows how to deal with an insurance claim. And that's your right to do that, by the way. If your insurance can't make you go to a certain shop. It's your car and it's your choice in where to take it. So with that said, what I want to make sure I cover here is what I hear from a lot of my customers that don't have the comprehensive coverage for their stolen catalytic converter, and that is, as I showed you on many of the examples outside, my car is older and I didn't feel it was worth the expense of the coverage. And this is really important, especially right now in today's market. Like, even older cars are bringing a lot of money because of the supply and demand and things like that. New cars are very hard to come by. So your car, albeit may in your eyes not be worth a lot of money, is probably worth more than you think it is. But let's not get into car value. Let's talk about what the insurance is taking care of. So yes, you may have an older car, and yes, the book value may be relatively low, but you're not protecting, in the case of the converter going missing or stolen, you're not protecting the old car, you're protecting the really expensive part that's on the exhaust system that's underneath the car. And that's what you need the coverage for. We're not covering the old car. We're making sure that you have the coverage so you're not having to come out of pocket to replace that very expensive catalytic converter that's underneath the vehicle. So that's how I want you to think of it. Or a good metaphor would be this. Maybe you have an old beat up house and you're thinking you don't want to spend a lot of money on homeowners, but if you've got expensive jewelry inside of it, it doesn't matter if your house isn't nice. You need to protect the stuff that's in the house. So I don't know if that makes sense, but that's an analogy metaphor I've used with customers in the past. So, okay, with that being said, let's go over different types of coverage. Now, a lot of people think there is basically two different levels of automotive insurance, and that is either liability, which most states require as a minimum to be able to carry a registered vehicle, and of course any upstanding citizen would want to have at least liability. That way, if you crashed into somebody or created some harm to property or person, you would have insurance to at least take care of the other party. So you have liability only, and that is absolutely your least expensive level of automotive insurance that you can get, because you're paying for very little coverage. You're not paying for any coverage for yourself. It would be for another party involved if you were at fault. So that's the one side of what a lot of people think that you can get, and the other side is full coverage. And those are certainly two applicable types of auto insurance that you can get. But it's important to understand that there are other things in the middle of that that you can add. Most major carriers, most good insurance companies will allow you to have a liability policy, but then a la carte add other things, such as comprehensive coverage. Now, what is comprehensive coverage? In a nutshell, it's basically anything that can happen to your car that isn't a collision, and specifically to converter theft or any vandalism or any theft, and they can steal the entire car, they can take the spare tire. If it's a truck, they can take the tailgate, they can break a window, steal a laptop off your front seat. Again, these are all covered by comprehensive. The way I like to explain comprehensive to my customers here is that it's basically the stuff that you don't have control of. Another one, natural disaster. Let's say a tornado picks your car up and throws it through a barn. That would be a comprehensive claim. Somebody spray paints their name on the side of your vehicle, comprehensive claim. And of course, somebody's stealing the catalytic converter. So these are all things we can't control, and because we can't control them, in my mind and in my eyes, really everybody that has an automotive insurance policy should have comprehensive, because in the real world, this is what we need. This is the type of insurance we need. If I'm driving down the road and I start texting my buddy, and I'm not paying attention and I crash into you in traffic, well, that's my fault. I could have controlled that. If I park my car outside next to an oak tree and we got a big windstorm and the oak tree falls over on the car, outside of maybe choosing a better parking spot, I can't control that from happening. So I'm a big believer in comprehensive outside of just protecting yourself against catalytic converter theft, because of the wide range of things that comprehensive covers, and also, again, because it covers things that really are something we can't control. Now, this is something I've learned recently, and I didn't know this, but if you're driving down the road and you hit a deer, that's actually comprehensive, because comprehensive actually covers things damaged from an animal. I knew that it covered things from an animal, like if a bear broke into your vehicle and tore up the interior, because I have a very good friend of mine that recently went through that in the Tahoe area. I didn't know that it covered if you collided with a deer that ran out in front of you on the road. So again, more things we can't control. We want the coverage, things like that. Now, a lot of people are intimidated to have anything above a liability policy, because, I mean, let's face it, a lot of us are pinching pennies and money gets tight. So we want to have, and an insurance, until you need it, doesn't feel like an expense that's really worthwhile. But trust me, and I have customers sitting in my showroom waiting area right now that will attest to either they wish they had it, or they're very glad they do have it because of all this catalytic converter theft. But a lot of people are very intimidated to have anything above a liability policy because they're afraid of the expense, and they don't even check to see what it costs to add that comprehensive as an a la carte item. And I think that depending on where you are in the country and what kind of vehicle you have, and things that different parts of variables and different parts of what an insurance company uses to give you a quote on coverage. But I think you'll find comprehensive is very inexpensive, and it's certainly inexpensive enough on some of the cars I highlighted earlier to cover what it would cost to replace those converters. Now, since we've covered that, let's talk about some other kind of limitations when it comes to insurance. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is deductibles. So if you have an insurance policy, and this goes for full coverage, this goes for comprehensive, or any part of your insurance policy that has a deductible, the deductible means that if you have a claim, the insurance is going to pay everything associated with that claim besides the deductible. And the deductible is what I like to call you as the insured. That's your skin in the game. If your catalytic converter gets stolen and it costs, let's say, $3,500 to fix, depending on what type of car you have, what type of part we have to use, that sort of thing. If you have a $500 deductible, then your insurance is going to pay $3,000 of that repair, and whatever repair shop you choose to do the actual fix, you will pay them the $500, and the insurance company will likely send a check to that shop for the remaining balance. Now, if you had a $1,000 deductible, of course, you'd be paying $1,000, and your insurance would pay the remainder. Now, let's go the other direction. If you had a $0 deductible, then the insurance has to pay the whole thing. Now, the larger the deductible, the lower your premium, because you have more skin in the game. And the smaller your deductible, the higher the premium, because you have less skin in the game. Pretty simple stuff. What I want to really outline here is that, let's say you have a full coverage policy, and when somebody sold you that policy from whomever you bought that from, and they gave you quotes, and sometimes they don't do that at all, sometimes they just sell you a canned policy. That's what I call it anyway. It's just a generic policy that most people buy. But some people are lucky to have insurance agents that are articulate and explain the different coverages and things like that, but they often don't get into the detail of what it would cost to have deductibles different on different parts of the policy. And a lot of people don't even know that that's a possibility. And what I mean by that is let's say you have a full coverage policy and you have a $500 deductible, and your $500 deductible is across the board. So you have a $500 deductible on bodily injury, you have $500 deductible on collision, you have $500 deductible on the liability, just $500 across the entire policy. Your skin in the game and your premium is associated with that deductible. Now, if you want to make sure that you have a lower deductible on the stuff you cannot control, then you'd want a lower deductible on your comprehensive. You leave the deductible the same everywhere else in that particular policy in the way it's written, but you have a lower deductible on your comprehensive. And this is the thing that was very surprising to me when I first learned it, and almost every one of my customers, once I've educated them on it, is also very surprised in that comprehensive coverage is actually very inexpensive. My personal policy with the carrier that I have, when I first started learning about stolen converters, and obviously I'm in the business, so this is a long time ago, but once I became educated around insurance, and I learned that the comprehensive part of my policy is actually very inexpensive. And I had one of those generic canned policies that was just $500 across the board. I reduced my deductible on my comprehensive, only my comprehensive, not the rest of the policy, but I reduced it from $500 to $50. It was like $6 more a month. So it's in the world of stolen converters and trees falling on cars and deers running out in front of us and all of these things that can cover my monetary liability on these things happening. Now I'm in a place where for $6 more a month, I only have to come out of pocket $50 per incident. And these are things like broken windshields too. Like a broken windshield is a comprehensive claim. So anyway, I've been going on and on about this. The main purpose of this video is I want to make sure that I am passing along the information that I know about, obviously primarily to stolen catalytic converters and the exhaust industry. This is what I do. But I also wanted to pass along some of the knowledge that I've acquired around insurance over processing this stuff. And if you drive any of the vehicles that I've talked about in this video, I think you're nuts to not have comprehensive policy. These parts are too expensive. And if you don't have any of the vehicles we talked about, let's say you have a vehicle that sits on the lower end of the threat scale, speaking to a catalytic converter being stolen, comprehensive is still a very inexpensive part of your policy. In my world, or at least in my beliefs, I think it's something that everyone should have. So, hey, with that said, guys, I so appreciate you watching. If you like what I have to say, please like and subscribe. It would be very helpful, obviously for me, but for your friends and family and anybody you know, you should share this. People should know this is information that should be out there. Catalytic converter theft doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon. And I will continue to do my best to educate people. And of course, if you're my customer in this area, want to come to my shop, I would love to help you with any repairs, any insurance claims, any stolen catalytic converters, anything we can do. And again, that's Muffler Tech in Sacramento, California. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. Have a wonderful day.